Very briefly, I just want to talk to you guys about you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. And I'm sending this out to anybody who has faith in the Most High and you are adamant about practicing that which the Most High has told us to practice. You are adamant about observing the commandments, honoring your Shabbats and your feast days that are given to us according to Scripture, and that you are determined to treat people properly. In other words, you have what we consider an excellent spirit within you. These are things that, as you look at Daniel, the book of Daniel, the 6th chapter and the 3rd chapter, these are things that got both Daniel in trouble, if you will, as well as getting the three Hebrew boys in trouble, because the governments, the powers that be, desired to challenge these individuals for their practices, their beliefs, their faith, which their practices, their belief, or their beliefs, their faith, were all pointed in a direction and towards someone, something that was higher than these governments, these current worldly governments. So, as you know the stories, Daniel bowed down to the Most High. He prayed, though there was an edict, a command in the land not to bow down in prayer in the way that Daniel prayed, to whom Daniel prayed, to whom Daniel gave homage, reverence, respect, regard. He was damned because he did. And you do know that the literal definition of damning is condemning. Okay? And you condemn because of a violation of a law. So the law that Daniel violated was a law of the land, yet he was maintaining the Most High's laws, because Scripture tells us that men ought to always pray. So Daniel, being fervent, being reverent, would turn his face to the east, and he would pray to the Father multiple times during the day. But because the powers that be wanted to find some fault with Daniel, because the whole kingdom saw that he had an excellent spirit within him, they found no fault in him. They tried to find some fault, but they couldn't. They could not find any errors within him. And so they decided to use his spiritual beliefs, his practices against him. And so he was damned because he did what? He bowed down to the Most High. Whereas when you look at the 3rd chapter of Daniel, when you look at the three Hebrew boys, whom we've come to call Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but their Hebrew names actually are Hananiah, I think Mishael, and Azariah. The three Hebrew boys did not bow. They were damned because they didn't. They did not bow down to the false god, the false image, the idol that had been created in the land. And yet, attached to that idol, that image that had been created in the land, was a law. Again, another man-made law dictating to everyone, hey, this is what you have to do. You've got to honor this thing. You've got to honor that. You've got to worship this way. You've got to worship in this manner at this time. And the three Hebrew boys were like, bump that. We're faithful to our Alua, as some of you say, our God. And so they're like, no, we're not bowing. They were damned because they didn't. Now we know the outcome for both Daniel and the three Hebrew boys is that a weapon was formed against them. Woo! I like that. The weapon was formed, but it did not prosper. They came up out of it. So I'm saying that to us because right now the laws in the land, United States as well as some other countries, the laws in the lands, plural, The laws are changing. And basically, no matter what you do, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Stick to whatever the Most High has given you and stick to it till the end. Even a lot of you Hebrew content makers here on YouTube, a lot of your stuff is being challenged right now because you are exposing stuff that's going on out in this world, and YouTube is restricting you from using certain terminologies, the names of certain countries, certain people, exposing certain scientific practices and technologies and the use of this stuff out here, and they are restricting you all. And I'm really feeling for you all who use YouTube as your monetary source, your primary source of income. Look, you're going to have to stand, because you're going to be damned if you do, and you're going to be damned if you don't. Now let's flip it. We looked at it from the stance of man's laws, but let's look at it from the Most High's perspective also. You're damned if you do. You're damned if you don't. You are condemned if you do anything that goes against the Most High's laws. You're condemned if you do anything that, how did I just say it? You're condemned if you do anything that goes against his laws, and you're condemned if you don't do what his laws mandate, what they dictate. So I'd rather, look, you've got to decide on who you're going to please. That's where I'm trying to go. You decide on whom you're going to please. But you're damned if you do. You're damned if you don't. So which damnation are you going to take? That's that.